Okay, children, we're going to do the Bible now, and I'm going to be reading a story to you, and you will be watching a video after I read the story as a little backup, and then you could always, to review the story, you could watch the video. It is the story about the first miracle that God through Jesus performed, and it was a miracle that he really did not want to do, but because he was obedient, this time being obedient to his mother, which gives us a very, very good example of how we should obey our parents. Of course, we should obey our parents when they are teaching us to do the right thing and teaching us about Jesus and about helping one another. We're going to be looking at a memory verse, and it's going to be, if you want to write it down, it's going to be Hebrews 13, 5b to 6a. And this is what God has said to us. He says, "Never will I leave you. Never will I forsake you. The Lord is my helper. I will not be afraid. What can man do to me?" So if God is on your side, it doesn't matter. No one can hurt you. Let me read it again. That is Hebrews 13, 5b and 6a. Never will I leave you. This is God talking to you. Never will I forsake you. Forsake you means to forget you. The Lord is my helper. I will not be afraid. What can man do to me? Because you know that even if you die for the sake of Jesus, you know, there are Christians around the world who cannot worship the way we can in our own church, and sometimes they are hurt or killed because they believe that Jesus is God's Son. But you know, they're not afraid, because even though the body might be killed, their spirit will go to heaven and be with Jesus forever and ever. Never will I leave you, never will I forsake you. The Lord is my helper. I will not be afraid. What can man do to me? Just remember, we have our Heavenly Father who will take care of us in the afterlife when we go to heaven to be with him. Okay, now I'm going to read the story to you, and then you will see the video, and you will also do workbook page 117. From water to wedding wine. Jesus and his disciples were invited to a wedding. Jesus' mother was also at this wedding in Cana of Galilee. The guests were celebrating by enjoying a feast, a big party. I don't know if any of you have been to a wedding, but you know, in those days, a wedding would last for several days. There would be food and wine and all kinds of sweet things. There would be music, and there would even be dancing. Yes, in Jesus' day, people danced. Not the same kind of dancing we do today, but more or less things like folk dances, dances having to do with their, with where they live and their background. The guests were celebrating by enjoying a feast, but suddenly there was no more wine to drink. Now, the wine in those days was really basically grape juice. That was the first juice from the grapes. And then when this juice lays around, it ferments and it changes, and that's when we get the alcohol, which kind of makes us dizzy and silly. But the best part of the wine is the first fruit juice that comes out of it. And Jesus' mother went to him and said, "They have no more wine." And Jesus said, "Well, I'm not ready to make a miracle." But then Mary, being his mother, wanted to save the wedding because once the wine was given out, the party was over, and they were not ready not to celebrate. So Mary knew that Jesus would obey her because he was a good son. So she told her servants to do whatever Jesus told them to do. Well, all right, there were 6 stone pots nearby. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. They're pretty big, right? And each pot held about 20 or 30 gallons. Think of a big gallon of milk. And one of those held 20 or 30 of those gallons. So that's a lot. Okay, so if you have 6 of them and you had 30 in each, that would be 180 gallons of wine. Boy, that's a lot of wine. Okay? It says that Jesus told the servants, fill up the water pots with water. Okay, now these are water pots. These are not wine pots. These are water pots. So you see that the servants are putting water in there, and they filled it up to the top. Then Jesus told the servants to dip some water. Well, there wasn't water. That's the surprise. Then Jesus told the servants to dip some from the water pots and to serve it to the main server of the feast. The servants did just as Jesus said. Now, when the servants took the water to the, he was called like the governor. He was in charge. He was like maybe the wedding planner or the one who supervised the wedding. And, you know, he was the one that told people when to serve food and when to dance and whatever. So when he got this cup and tasted it, it was not water anymore. It was wine. The main server did not know where the wine had come from, but the servants knew that what he was drinking used to be water. Jesus had changed the water to wine. Now the governor of the feast called to the groom and reminded him of the way wine should be served. And he was, there's a certain way that things have to be done. And what you do is you always serve the best wine first, because then people will have that wine, and then afterwards, if you can give them wine that's not so good, and they won't know the difference because they will have been so full of the other wine that they wouldn't care anymore. Then, when everyone had as much as he wanted of the good wine to drink, the wine that was not so tasty was served. So he always served the best first. But Jesus had given them the best wine when they had nothing else left. This was the first of many miracles that Jesus did, and his disciples were shocked, and they believed on him that this man has great power. He must be something special, and we know that he was special. He is God's son. Okay? What was the problem at the wedding feast? No more wine. No more wine to make the people happy. What did Mary, or who was Mary anyway? Jesus' mother. What did she tell the servants to do? She told them to do whatever Jesus told her, because she knew he was an obedient son and that he would listen to her. What did the governor of the feast think about the wine that Jesus miraculously made? He thought it was the best wine and that it should have been served first. Okay. All right, so now, did the governor of the feast know who had performed this and what had been done? No. Did people thank Jesus for what he had done? No, nobody knew. The only person who knew were the servants and Mary. And we know that, Mary wasn't going to go around telling everybody what had happened. So what I would like to do is just play the song, Jesus is All the World to Me, which is our theme song. So if you want to listen to it or sing along.